Hello all, this is Naga. I have 9 years of experience working on BI technologies, and I've been working on Power BI for the last 4 years. Today the concept is going to be very interesting, and it's about network days, which has been introduced into the Power BI very recently. So the basic idea is like the targeted audience is like people who are attending for Power BI interviews and those who are preparing for the Power BI interviews, and these are the very frequently asked questions. I've been attending a few interviews, and the interviewers are asking this particular question, and a few of my friends, colleagues are attending the interviews, and even I'm taking the hint from them also. What are the questions that are frequently asked, and trying to make the frequently asked questions as videos so that it would be beneficial for the people who are the aspirants of the interviews. So let's get into the topic. Let's not waste much time, and the question can be asked in two different ways. So this is the first way of asking this, what directly the interviewer can ask you. So what is network days function in Power BI? So this is very straightforward way of asking the question, and sometimes they may tweak the question, like how do you achieve number of working days between two dates, like order date and ship date. Say for example, so on one particular date the product has been ordered, and on some date the product has been delivered. The user is asking me, so what are the number of days that it took for the product to be delivered. So network days, the very intention is like if there are any holidays in between, those are not to be taken into consideration, and if there are any weekends, those should be ignored while calculating the difference between these two dates. So basically, whenever this question comes up, your explanation should start with the syntax network days. Network days basically has 4 parameters. Out of them, the first 2 are compulsory parameters, which we call them as mandatory parameters. The remaining 2 you specify or you don't specify, those are optional. So let us clearly understand even those optional parameters also. So the first one is the start date, and the second one is the end date. The third one, you're telling the network days function that hey, there are some weekdays, there are some weekends which are to be ignored. So when you are not passing any value here, see, if you clearly observe, either you specify one or you prefer to ignore, omit. It basically takes Saturday and Sunday as weekends. So those 2 days will not be considered while calculating the network days. And sometimes what happens, along with together with the weekends, there will be some holidays, some festivals. Some January 1st is a holiday, and Thanksgiving is a holiday. What is a holiday and what is not. So explicitly you have to specify, hey network days function, so there is one more holiday, and please prefer to ignore that particular day into consider this particular thing, ignore it while calculating the number of days. So that's how you explicitly mention your network days function with the holidays. And this weekend and holidays both are optional, so the mandatory parameters are start date and end date. So this is how you start explaining your explanation to the interviewer. Then so this is enough actually for the interviews, but we have to understand how this works in reality. So let's get into the Power BI and see what is happening. The requirement is, let us not worry about, I have taken 8 orders, order 1, order 2, order 3, order 8. So let's not worry about all other orders. Let's concentrate on only order 1, where the user has ordered on 6th October and it has been delivered on 11th October. For a moment, let us consider that there is no network days function in Power BI. So when the user asks you, hey, how many days it took for the delivery days, so there is one available function, that is date diff function. So what date diff takes? The start date, the end date. In difference, I need it in days. So this doesn't have much intelligence actually. So let us simply drag and drop here. It doesn't have much intelligence. It takes 11th and 6th and it just simply subtracts 11 minus 6. It gives you 5 days. No, it is not bothering about the weekends that are present. It is not even thinking a moment about the holidays that may have in between this date range. It doesn't worry about anything. Simply it takes the end date 11th and the start date 6th, simply makes a subtraction and gives you 5. This is not exactly what the user is asking. Hey, you need to ignore if there are weekends, you need to ignore if there are holidays. So for that I have written another formula. So I am trying to achieve this using variables. Variables is a very powerful concept. When you are writing your formulas using variables, see, the readability is excellent. Very easily you can read the entire code, and you can achieve some performance also using variables. So these are the two main advantages with variables. I'm gonna make a separate video on the benefits of variables. Well, let's not discuss very deeply into variables here. This is on network days. So on variable A I am keeping the order date, into variable B I am keeping delivery date, and or you can assume that start date, and this is start date and this is end date. Now in my first attempt, in my first example, I am just passing the mandatory variables, the compulsory parameters, I'm sorry. So the start date and end date. The third one I am not specifying, means I have already explained you, right? Now if you are not specifying the weekend, if you prefer to omit the weekend, it automatically takes Saturday and Sunday. So what is happening here? So if there are any Saturdays and Sundays in between 6th October and 11th October, it will not consider for counting. So that is what is to happen. I am not giving any hint on holidays, which means that I am telling my network days that there are no holidays in between this date range. So from the calendar, let us understand. 6th it considers, 7th it considers, 8th Saturday is a weekend, doesn't consider, 9th is weekend, doesn't consider, 10th considers, 11th considers, 6, 7, 10, 11. So when I drag and drop this particular measure onto the visual, it should give me 4 as network days. Let's see. Wait a moment, let me minimize this formula bar. Come on to the visual. Yes. So now it has ignored the weekends. Very good. So sometimes what happens, in many of the Indian companies have only Sunday as weekend. Saturday is a working day. In that particular case, if you are working for such kind of organization, you have to specify this third parameter as 11. So you may have a question, sir, where can I find all this particular list? So in the documentation from the Microsoft, if you go and open network days function, you can see all this particular list. You need not memorize them, you need not remember them. So it is automatically present. Whenever the situation comes, you just go have a glance so that you'll understand what is to be used. For Indian companies, 11 you will specify. And now let's go to Power BI once again to understand network days with holiday. Say now let me tell you that between 6th and 11th, so on 10th there is a holiday, on Monday it is a holiday. Let us just assume that 10th is a holiday. So I have to tell my network days that, hey, network days, 10th is a holiday for my organization, so don't consider 10th while calculating the number of days between those two dates. So this is how we write the formula. Network days, start date, end date, 1 by default. Saturday, Sunday are weekends, and this is the date which is holiday. So explicitly in curly braces you need to mention this. That is the reason even in the name I have given in curly braces. So in curly braces the list of values, that means it is considered as a table. In curly braces, if you are specifying some values, that is considered as a table of values. So 10th is also not considered. Now So when I drag and drop, so one more day should be ignored. That means when I drag and drop this particular measure, it should show me 3. 4 minus 1. One more holiday is there. So let us see if it is giving me 3 or not. Yes, 3. So the fourth example I'm going to give you, like for the entire organization, there is a list of holidays. So the list of holidays is not a very big data set. It doesn't contain millions and millions of rows. So minimum of 15, maximum of 20 rows it may have. So generally organizations prefer to have this particular data set in the Excel format or some flat file, and they keep it in the shared drive. So I'll just I have taken like this holidays, and whatever the holidays that my organization have will be specified here. For the sake of example, I am taking only 2 days. 10th is a holiday for my organization, 11th is also a holiday for my organization, just for the sake of understanding. So what I am going to do now, instead of hard coding the value, I am just passing the table name in my last example. So here if you see, this is the table holidays. So that is what I have specified. Whatever the holidays that are specified in this particular table will be ignored from being calculated. So I have specified 2. That means these 2 holidays also should be ignored from calculation. Let us see how this works. It should give me 2 as the result. Let me scroll little bit to the right. Yes, it is 2. 2 weekends, 2 holidays, all 4 are ignored now. So the resultant output is 2. So this is how you need to explain to the interviewer every parameter, what is the purpose, and if you pass the third parameter, what does it do, and if you pass the fourth parameter, and while passing the fourth parameter, there are 2 ways of passing it. As I have shown you, there are 2 ways of passing it. One, within curly braces you can specify the hard-coded dates. The other one, because we have the date function, we can take the help of the date function while specifying. The other one is the common practice in the organizations, they keep in the Excel and they pass it like a table. This is how your explanation should be. Hope this is helpful, and if you can answer in this particular way, definitely so the interviewer will not have many other questions on network days function, and he will definitely come to an understanding that you have very solid understanding of this particular function, and you have already used this function in your organization. So hope this helps, and definitely we'll meet with another video. Thank you so very much, and all the best for your interviews.